All right, Prime Minister Liz Truss has resigned over the last about 45 minutes or more. She announced she was stepping down after meeting with the Conservative committee that sets the rules for selecting and changing the party leader. She said there'll be a leadership election within the next week, adding that she will remain as Prime Minister until a successor is chosen.
I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
Opposition Labour Party leader Keir Starmer has called for an immediate general election in the wake of British Prime Minister Liz Truss' resignation.
Yes, and this is not just a soap opera at the top of the Tory party. It's doing huge damage to our economy and to the reputation of our country. And the public are paying with higher prices, with higher mortgages. So we can't have a revolving door of chaos. We can't have another experiment at the top of the Tory party. There is an alternative, and that's a stable Labour government. And the public are entitled to have their say, and that's why there should be a general election. We are ready to form a government to stabilise the economy and implement a real plan for growth, for living standards, to help people through a cost of living crisis. And that's the choice now, a stable Labour government or this utter chaos from the Conservatives.
All right, Arise Senior Global Correspondent John Cookson joins us now live from London. John, good afternoon to you. So it's pretty incredible stuff now. The last 4 prime ministers in the UK resigning for one reason or the other. What is the latest with what we're seeing with Liz Truss?
Hi there, good to see you, and good afternoon from Westminster. Well, a political earthquake rocked this country at around 1:30 today, London and Nigeria time, when Liz Truss resigned. We just heard a speech on the steps of Downing Street. It was expected, to be frank, because there's so much groundswell of opposition against her within her own party and amongst cabinet ministers. But you know, when it comes, it's still a shock, and she has the rare distinction of being the Prime Minister for the shortest time ever in British politics, 45 days. And she said that she will resign, and also the leadership race will go to a ballot. And she said that she hoped that the new party leader will be in place within a week. Now, Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of the 1922 committee, which oversees these kind of things, has promised the ballot will take place by Friday, October the 28th. So at least for the country, which is looking for certainty now, we have a date by which a new leader of the Conservative Party will be chosen. As I say, it's come as a shock, but not unexpected. Certainly in the last few days, Conservative MPs are very angry with the way that the economy has been handled by the Truss government, and even sacking the Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, and replacing him with someone else, Jeremy Hunt, hasn't appeased those people. And certainly Conservative Party members and MPs were all calling for change, and that happened today. And we heard there the leader of the opposition, Labour opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, calling for an immediate general election. So Big stuff here at Westminster today, and certainly in the next few hours or so we'll hear about those putting their names forward as a possible new leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister.
Yeah, speaking of which, can you fill us in on those names? Because we're hearing that one of the names could be the last Prime Minister before Liz Truss.
Well, look, before we talk about Boris, let me tell you the important news is that Kemi Badenoch, who has Nigerian parents, she was born in southwest London but spent a lot of time in Nigeria. She's currently a Trade Secretary. She's put herself forward. She's made it known that she'd like to stand as leader, so that's a very interesting development, and that would get us the first black Prime Minister if she ever gets through the selection process and goes to the vote and wins that vote. Others, of course, the other runners and riders are Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor. He's out in front as far as the bookies are concerned. Here on Arise News, we interviewed a leading bookmaker a short time ago, and he said that Rishi Sunak was a roar-away winner at the moment. But other names in the frame are Penny Mordaunt, former Defence Secretary, who had a very good week in Parliament this week, very assured, connects with the people, and sort of conservative through and through. She is certainly a very strong contender. And also Ben Wallace, Defence Secretary, known as a safe pair of hands, and a politician of a huge experience. He's just come back from Washington having meetings with the Pentagon and the White House to talk about Ukraine. But you mentioned Boris. Yes, he's there in the background. The Conservatives got rid of him only earlier this year. He's been laying very, very low in the last few weeks and months, not making a peep of sound. He's been giving talks on the after-dinner circuit, the so-called rubber chicken circuit, earning himself the equivalent of $200,000 a night for public speaking. But in the last hour or so, Boris supporters have made it clear that he's not ruling himself out. So that's an interesting development, but he's yet to speak, and he's sort of gone to earth at the moment, but whether journalists will find him and get some words out of him, we'll have to wait and see. His great hero, Sir Winston Churchill, had some time in the political wilderness, and he models himself on Churchill from time to time, we're given to understand. So it would make sense for Boris in his own mind to try to make a comeback. But look, the race is frankly wide open. As I say, Kemi Badenoch just announced in the last few minutes that she's going to stand, which is an exciting development. But Rishi Sunak, presently current favourite to win the leadership race, which Sir Graham Brady, chairman of the 1922 committee, said will be determined by October the 28th, Friday, the October the 28th.
Wow. All right, John, is this the end of the Conservative Party? Is it being broken down into factions? Briefly, if you can.
That's what they're talking about here. The Conservatives have been in power here for 12 years now. It's time for a change. Labour are well ahead in the opinion polls. Conservative Party 200 years old. Is it still fit for purpose? It's split down the middle. And we'll have to wait and see what happens to the Conservative Party after the leadership race is over.
Arise senior correspondent, global correspondent, John Cookson, live in Westminster. Thank you so much for taking us through the latest from Downing Street.